My name is Robert Thompson, but everyone calls me Bob. I'm 72 years old and live alone in a ranch-style house on Maple Street in Whitefish, Montana. I retired after working 35 years as a mechanic at Thompson's Auto Shop, fixing everything from old Chevrolets to the logging trucks that came down from the mountains. My wife, Linda, passed away 3 years ago from complications of Alzheimer's that took her too quickly. Since then, the house has been too quiet, too big for just one man. It was on a March afternoon in 2023 when the Montana spring was just starting to melt the last of the winter snow, and I was sitting on my front porch watching the neighbors go about their day, that I saw a young boy chasing after a dog that had broken free from its leash. The animal was impressive, a Belgian shepherd with dark fur and intelligent eyes. The kid was shouting, "Rex, come back here," as he ran down the sidewalk. The dog stopped right in front of my house, as if he had chosen this exact spot. He looked at me with those deep brown eyes and simply sat down. The boy arrived out of breath and introduced himself as Jake, grandson of Mrs. Patterson, who lived 3 houses down on the same street. "Sorry, Mr. Thompson, Rex got away again. My grandma can't really take care of him properly anymore," explained the boy, sweaty and tired. I learned that Rex was 2 years old, born from a pair of Belgian shepherds from a breeder in Billings, but the family could no longer afford to keep him. Mrs. Patterson, already 80 years old, had offered to take the animal in, but her physical limitations made proper care difficult. "He's really smart, you know. He's already learned several commands and obeys really well," Jake told me, petting Rex's neck. At that moment, I looked at the dog and felt something I hadn't experienced in a long time. Rex stared back at me intently, as if he could read my thoughts. There was an instant connection between us, something unexplainable but real. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any chapters. "What if I took him in?" I heard myself asking, surprising myself. "I have time, space, and honestly, the company would be welcome." Jake's face lit up. "Really, Mr. Thompson, my grandma would be so happy. She's been worried because she can't give Rex the attention he deserves anymore." That's how our story began. Rex came to my house with an old bed, 2 metal bowls, and a half-empty bag of kibble. But he also arrived with something more precious, sharp intelligence, and a natural disposition to care for people. In the first few days, he explored every corner of the house, sniffed every piece of furniture, every room. I watched him, amazed by his methodical curiosity. Rex wasn't just any dog. There was something special about the way he analyzed his environment, as if he were mapping everything in his memory. The routine established itself quickly. Rex woke up with me at 6 in the morning, accompanied me to the kitchen for breakfast, stayed nearby while I read the newspaper on the porch, and walked with me around the neighborhood in the late afternoon. It was impressive how he picked up on my movements and moods. When I was more introspective, thinking about Linda, Rex would approach quietly and lie down beside me. When I was more upbeat, he would play and run around the backyard. 2 weeks after Rex arrived, I had my first routine medical appointment. Dr. Henderson, my cardiologist for the past 5 years, examined me with his usual seriousness. "Bob, your tests show that the hypertension is controlled, but I need to adjust some medications. And I want to add a preventive heart medication," the doctor explained, writing several prescriptions. I left the appointment with a bag full of pill bottles, blood pressure medication, heart pills, cholesterol medicine, anti-inflammatory for back pain, vitamins. It was an arsenal of medications I would need to take at specific times. At home, I organized everything in a kitchen cabinet, separating the medicines by schedule. Rex watched me attentively as I explained to him, half-jokingly, "Look here, Rex, these are for the heart, these are for blood pressure." I had no idea that this playful explanation would be the beginning of something extraordinary. On the first night, I woke up at 3 in the morning with a sharp chest pain. It was a tight feeling that left me panicked. I got up slowly, trying not to make noise, but Rex immediately woke up and followed me to the kitchen. With trembling hands, I searched for the heart medication in the cabinet. Rex stayed by my side, watching every movement. I took the medication and sat at the kitchen table, waiting for the pain to subside. Rex didn't leave my side for a single second. "Thanks for the company, buddy," I whispered, petting his head. "I think you came into my life at just the right time." That night, as I waited for the medicine to take effect, I thought about how loneliness had become less heavy since Rex arrived. It wasn't just the physical presence of the animal, but the feeling of having someone who cared about me, who was attentive to my well-being. Give this video a thumbs up if you believe in the power of friendship between humans and animals. 3 weeks passed since that first night of chest pain, and I began to notice something unusual in Rex's behavior. Whenever I went to the medication cabinet, he became especially attentive, observing every movement I made. It was an April morning. Montana spring was settling in with that crisp mountain air we're famous for. I was having my coffee when I felt a twinge in my chest, not as strong as the first time, but concerning enough. "Rex, I think I'm going to need my medicine," I said, more to myself than to him. I stood up and headed to the kitchen cabinet. To my surprise, Rex ran ahead, stopped exactly in front of the cabinet, and looked at me as if to say, "This is it, right?" I opened the cabinet and grabbed the heart medication bottle. Rex watched carefully which medicine I had chosen, where it was positioned on the shelf, and even how I held the bottle. "You're really smart, aren't you?" I commented, impressed by his attention. In the following days, I began to notice a pattern. Whenever I felt unwell or needed to take medication, Rex would accompany me to the cabinet and pay attention to every detail. It was as if he were studying, memorizing. It was on a Thursday when everything changed. I was watering the plants in my backyard when I felt dizzy, followed by chest pain. This time, the sensation was more intense and made me stagger. "Rex, the medicine," I managed to say, pointing toward the house. What happened next left me completely stunned. Rex ran into the house and in less than 2 minutes came back with something in his mouth. It was exactly the heart medication bottle. I sat down on the back steps, still dizzy, and took the bottle from Rex's mouth. I took the medication and stayed there, trying to process what had just happened. "How did you know which medicine to bring?" I asked him, while he looked at me with an almost human expression of concern. From that day forward, I decided to test and at the same time train Rex more systematically. Over the next few weeks, whenever I took any medication, I made sure to show him which one it was, repeating the name several times. "This is the heart medicine, Rex." "Heart," I would say, showing him the bottle. "This one here is for blood pressure." Blood pressure. Rex paid attention like a dedicated student. His eyes followed every movement, every word. His concentration capacity was impressive. We began organizing the medications more methodically. I put colored labels on each bottle: blue for heart, red for blood pressure, green for cholesterol, yellow for vitamins, and so on. Rex observed everything with growing interest. Subscribe to our channel to follow this incredible journey. 2 weeks later, I decided to do a test. I pretended to have chest pain and said, "Rex, I need the heart medicine." To my joy and amazement, he ran to the cabinet, stood in front of the correct shelf, and began barking softly as if asking me to open it. When I opened it, he positioned himself to indicate exactly where the right medicine was. "My God, you really understand!" I exclaimed, moved. Motivated by the success, I continued the training. I taught him to identify the anti-inflammatory for back pain, sleeping medication, headache medicine. Each medication had its colored label and specific position in the cabinet. Rex learned with impressive speed. Within a few weeks, he could already distinguish between 5 different medications, but I felt he was capable of much more. That's when I had an idea. I contacted Jake, Mrs. Patterson's grandson, who was always willing to help. "Jake, do you know if there are any dog trainers around here? I want to improve Rex's training," I asked. "There is, Mr. Thompson. My cousin works with that in Great Falls. He trains search and rescue dogs. Can I talk to him?" A week later, I met Carlos, a 35-year-old man experienced in training dogs for specialized tasks. When I explained what Rex could already do, his eyes lit up with interest. I've never trained a dog to fetch specific medications, but from what you're telling me, Rex has exceptional potential. Belgian Shepherds are extremely intelligent and have extraordinary memory, Carlos explained. We then began more technical training. Carlos taught me to use specific commands, appropriate rewards, and repetition techniques. Most importantly, he showed me how to associate each medication with a unique verbal command. Heart for the cardiac medication, pressure for hypertension, pain for anti-inflammatory, vitamin for supplements, cholesterol for statins, sleep for the sleep inducer. Rex absorbed everything like a sponge. Carlos was impressed by how quickly he assimilated the commands. Mr. Thompson, in 15 years of training, I've never seen a dog with this memorization capacity. Rex isn't just being trained, he's genuinely learning and understanding, Carlos commented after the third session. By the end of the second month of training, Rex perfectly knew the location and verbal command for 9 different medications. But it wasn't just that. He began demonstrating a capacity that surprised us even more. He could perceive when I wasn't feeling well, even before I realized it myself. One afternoon, while I was watching television in the living room, Rex came to me, put his snout on my leg, and began gently pushing me toward the kitchen. Initially, I didn't understand, but he insisted. When we reached the kitchen, he positioned himself in front of the medication cabinet and looked at me with that expression I already knew well. It was as if he were saying, "You need to take your medicine." I looked at my watch and realized it was exactly time for my blood pressure medication, which I had completely forgotten. "How did you know, Rex?" I asked, amazed. "You even memorized the schedules." That night, before sleeping, I thought about the miracle that had happened in my life. Rex wasn't just a companion. He had become my guardian, my 4-legged angel. Share this story if it touched your heart. October arrived, bringing the first snow of the season to Whitefish. The crisp Montana air filled my house, and I was on my porch watching the snowflakes fall on the pine trees when I felt a familiar twinge in my chest. This time, I didn't even need to say anything. Rex, who was lying beside me, immediately got up and ran into the house. In less than a minute, he returned with the blue bottle, the heart medication, holding it delicately between his teeth. "Thank you, buddy," I murmured, still impressed by his precision. It had been almost 6 months since he came into my life, and every day he surprised me more. By that time, Rex had completely mastered 12 different medications. In addition to the original ones, Dr. Henderson had prescribed medicines for anxiety, for diabetes, my glucose had increased, for prostate problems, and even a nasal spray for allergies. The system we developed was perfect. I had numbered each shelf of the cabinet and created specific compartments. Rex knew not only the exact location of each medication, but also their administration schedules. He had become my personal pharmacist. Don't miss any episode of this incredible story. Subscribe to our channel now. But it was on a November morning that Rex demonstrated an ability that left me completely speechless. I had woken up feeling fine and was following my normal routine. Breakfast, reading the newspaper, some light exercises in the backyard. Rex accompanied me as always, but I noticed he was more restless than usual. Around 10 o'clock, while I was raking leaves in the yard, Rex began barking insistently. It wasn't the alert bark for strangers. It was different, more urgent. "What's wrong, Rex? Everything's fine," I said, trying to calm him down. But he continued barking and began pushing me toward the house. His insistence was such that I stopped what I was doing and followed him. Reaching the kitchen, Rex ran directly to the medication cabinet and began scratching at the door, looking alternately at me and at the cabinet. "But Rex, I'm not feeling anything." "I'm fine," I said, confused. He kept insisting, so I decided to open the cabinet to see what he wanted. Rex immediately pointed with his snout to the shelf where the blood pressure medication was kept. Blood pressure? "But I'm not feeling anything different," I said, still not understanding. As a precaution, I decided to check my blood pressure with the device Dr. Henderson had given me. To my surprise and fright, the numbers were very high, 180 over 110, a silent hypertensive crisis. "My God, Rex, how did you know?" I asked, already grabbing the medication to take immediately. I called Dr. Henderson, who advised me to double the dose that day, and asked me to monitor my pressure hourly. Throughout the day, Rex didn't leave my side like my personal nurse. "Dr. Henderson, do you think a dog can detect changes in blood pressure?" I asked during our phone conversation. "Bob, dogs have much sharper senses than ours. It's possible that Rex is detecting subtle changes in your body odor, your breathing, or even the sound of your heartbeat. Some dogs are trained to detect seizures before they even happen," the doctor explained. That experience made me realize that Rex had developed abilities that went far beyond formal training. He was genuinely caring for me, monitoring my health intuitively and constantly. In the following weeks, I began paying more attention to the signals Rex gave me. I noticed he had specific behaviors for each situation. When my glucose was altered, he stayed closer and gently pushed me toward the kitchen, where the diabetes medications were kept. When I had back pain, even before I noticed, he brought the anti-inflammatory. When I was anxious or agitated, he guided me to the anxiety medication. It was as if he had developed his own diagnostic system. One day we received an unexpected visit. Carlos, the trainer who had helped us initially, appeared accompanied by an elegant woman who introduced herself as Dr. Martinez, a veterinarian specialized in animal behavior. "Mr. Thompson, Carlos told me about Rex's abilities. I work with canine intelligence research at Montana State University and would like to study your case," the veterinarian explained. "Study how?" I asked, a bit apprehensive. "Nothing invasive, don't worry. Just observe and document Rex's abilities. What you've developed is extraordinary and could help other people in the same situation." Over the next 2 weeks, Dr. Martinez visited our house several times, always bringing different equipment, cameras, sensors, measuring devices. Rex, always cooperative, allowed all the tests without resistance. The results were surprising. Rex had memorized not only the location of the 12 medications, but had also associated each one with specific patterns of my behavior and physical state. "Mr. Thompson, Rex has developed what we call medical cartography. He mapped your house, your medications, your schedules, and even your vital signs. It's one of the most impressive demonstrations of adaptive intelligence I've ever witnessed," Dr. Martinez explained. "If this story is moving you, don't forget to like and subscribe." But the most incredible was yet to come. On a December afternoon, while Dr. Martinez was still conducting her studies, we had a situation that tested all of Rex's abilities. I was in the backyard raking the last autumn leaves when I felt chest pain different from all the others, more intense, radiating to my left arm. It was clearly something more serious. I tried to walk to the house, but the pain made me stagger. I could only shout, "Rex, help!" What happened in the next few minutes was filmed by the cameras Dr. Martinez had installed for the study. Rex ran into the house and in less than 3 minutes returned not only with my heart medication, but also with the cordless phone in his mouth. He dropped both beside me and began barking loudly, not at me, but toward the neighbor's house, Mrs. Johnson's, who always helped when I needed it. Mrs. Johnson heard the barking, came to see what was happening, and immediately called 911. While we waited for the ambulance, Rex lay beside me, warming my body and offering comfort. "Rex saved my life," I whispered to Mrs. Johnson, petting my four-legged angel's head. In the ambulance, on the way to the hospital, I held Rex's leash tight, as the paramedics had allowed him to accompany me. Looking into those brown eyes full of concern, I knew our story was just beginning. "Thank you for taking care of me, buddy," I whispered. "You're much more than a dog. You're my family." Kalispell Regional Medical Center had never received a patient accompanied by his dog, But after explaining the situation, the doctors made an exception. Rex stayed in the room with me during the 3 days of hospitalization, always alert, always caring. Dr. Henderson was impressed when he learned the details of what had happened. "Bob, Rex not only brought your medication but also the phone. That demonstrates a level of reasoning and problem-solving that goes beyond canine instinct," he commented, examining my test results. Fortunately, it hadn't been a heart attack, but rather a severe angina crisis. My heart was stable, but I would need some adjustments in treatment and 2 more medications in my daily routine. "Now it's 14 medications, Rex," I joked with him when we got home. "Think you can memorize 2 more? The answer came in the following days. With the same dedication as always, Rex carefully observed as I organized the new medicines in the cabinet. In less than a week, he already knew exactly where to find them and when I would need them. But our story took an unexpected direction when Dr. Martinez published the results of her research in the Montana State University Journal. The scientific article about adaptive intelligence and medical care in Canis lupus familiaris attracted national attention. Give this video a thumbs up if you believe in the power of animals to help us. In January 2024, we received a visit from a CBS Montana news team. The reporter, a friendly young woman named Sarah, wanted to document our story for the evening news program. "Mr. Thompson, Rex's story is already traveling across America. Many people are interested in knowing how it was possible to train a dog for such a specific function," Sarah explained. "During filming, Rex demonstrated his abilities with his usual naturalness. When I asked for pressure, he brought exactly the right medication. Heart, and there came the cardiac medicine. Diabetes, and he ran to get the metformin. The reporter was visibly moved when Rex demonstrated his ability to anticipate my medical needs. During filming, even though I wasn't feeling anything different, Rex began getting restless and guided me to the anxiety medication. It's incredible. He really can perceive when you're altered before you even realize it yourself," Sarah commented. The story aired on a Thursday and had much greater repercussions than we imagined. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. People from all over America called, wanting to know how to train their own dogs. Others offering help, many just wanting to share their own stories with special animals. One of the calls that touched me most was from a lady in Phoenix, Mrs. Helen, 78 years old, who lived alone and had heart problems similar to mine. "Mr. Thompson, I watched the story and cried a lot. I also live alone and sometimes I'm afraid of feeling sick and not having anyone to help me. How can I get a dog like Rex?" she asked with a broken voice. That conversation made me think of a possibility I hadn't considered before. What if we could help other people in the same situation? What if the method we developed with Rex could be replicated? I talked to Carlos, the trainer, about this idea. His eyes lit up with enthusiasm. "Mr. Thompson, that would be revolutionary. Specific medical assistance dogs. It's never been tried in America on this scale, but based on Rex's success, I believe it's totally possible," Carlos said. "We decided to do a test." Carlos knew a family in Missoula with a diabetic and hypertensive elderly man who was interested in adopting a dog. They had a young German Shepherd female, very intelligent. For 2 months, Carlos adapted the techniques we used with Rex to train Luna, the German Shepherd. I accompanied him in several sessions, sharing the specific details of our method. Luna learned quickly. In 8 weeks, she could already identify and fetch 5 different medications for her new owner, Mr. Roberts. Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this one. Luna's success opened doors I never imagined. In March, we received a call from the Montana Department of Health and Human Services. They wanted to develop a pilot program of medical assistance dogs for elderly people living alone. "Mr. Thompson, your experience with Rex could be the foundation of an innovative social program. We would be interested in funding a project to train more dogs with these abilities," explained the program coordinator, Dr. Patricia. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Our small story was transforming into something much bigger. In the following months, we worked with Carlos to systematize and document the entire training process. We created manuals, instructional videos, and specific protocols. Rex, always patient, served as a model to demonstrate each stage of training. The first official class of the Health Guardian Dogs program began in May 2024 at an adapted ranch in Bozeman, Montana. 10 dogs were selected: German Shepherds, Belgians, and Labradors, and 10 families with elderly people in medical vulnerability situations signed up to receive the animals. Rex and I were invited to the graduation ceremony of the first class. I was as nervous as if it were my own graduation. Seeing 10 dogs demonstrating the abilities that Rex had taught me first was too moving. "Mr. Thompson, do you realize what you started here?" asked Dr. Patricia during the ceremony. "Rex didn't just save your life, he could save hundreds of others." That afternoon, hugging my 4-legged companion, I watched the families receiving their new guardians. Each dog had been trained to care specifically for their future owner's medical needs. Luna was there too, already well adapted to Mr. Roberts. When I greeted them, he told me that Luna had detected a hypoglycemic crisis 3 weeks before, bringing him the right medication and probably saving his life. "Rex started a revolution," I commented to Carlos, watching the ceremony. "No, Mr. Thompson," he replied. "You two started a revolution. Rex had the intelligence, but you had the patience and love to develop it." Driving home that night with Rex sleeping in the back seat of the car, I thought about how our life had changed. It started with a lonely man adopting an abandoned dog. It transformed into a story of love, mutual care, and overcoming. And now it was becoming hope for hundreds of other families. "Thank you for everything, Rex," I murmured, looking in the rearview mirror. "You transformed our loneliness into purpose." It was September 2024 when I received a call that would completely change our routine. On the other end of the line, a young female voice introduced herself as Carol, producer of an international documentary about animal intelligence. "Mr. Thompson, we learned about Rex's story through Dr. Martinez's research. We would like to include you both in a documentary that will air on Discovery Channel. Your story represents a milestone in the relationship between humans and assistance animals," Carol explained. I confess I got nervous. My life had always been simple, quiet. The idea of appearing on an international channel scared me a little. But looking at Rex, who was lying beside me as always, I understood that our story could inspire people around the world. "If this can help other people like me, I accept," I replied. The film crew arrived from New York in a van equipped with professional cameras. The director, a man named Richard, was impressed by the naturalness with which Rex demonstrated his abilities. "In 15 years of filming animal documentaries, I've never seen anything like this," Richard commented, as Rex methodically searched for each of the 14 different medications I had requested. "If you're following our journey, don't forget to subscribe to our channel." During the filming, which lasted 3 days, Rex behaved like a true professional actor. He demonstrated not only his abilities to fetch medications, but also his capacity to anticipate my medical needs. In one of the most impressive scenes, while I was talking normally with the director on the porch, Rex began getting restless. Without me perceiving any change in my condition, he guided me to the medication cabinet and indicated the blood pressure medicine. "Let's measure just to confirm," Richard suggested, genuinely curious. The device showed 170/100, an alteration I hadn't perceived, but which Rex detected before any symptoms appeared. "This is scientifically fascinating," Richard commented. "Rex has developed the ability to detect subtle physiological changes that precede clinical symptoms." The documentary Silent Guardians aired in December, and our story reached more than 50 countries. The repercussions were unexpected. I received messages from people in France, Germany, Japan, all interested in knowing how to replicate Rex's training. One of the messages that moved me most came from an American war veteran named John, who had lost a leg in Afghanistan and suffered from severe anxiety episodes. "Mr. Thompson, your story gave me hope. I have a German shepherd named Duke, and inspired by Rex, I'm trying to train him to help me with my anxiety and depression medications. Thank you for showing it's possible." These messages made me realize that our small experience had become something universal. The need for care, companionship, and medical assistance was common to people worldwide, regardless of culture or language. In January 2025, we received a very special visit. Dr. Michael Harrison, an American researcher specializing in therapy dogs, came specifically to Montana to meet Rex and study our method. "What you've developed here goes beyond what currently exists in medical assistance dogs," Dr. Harrison explained, watching Rex work. "In the United States, we have dogs trained to detect seizures, glucose changes, but Rex's pharmacological specificity is revolutionary." Dr. Harrison spent a week with us, documenting every detail of Rex's behavior and training. He asked hundreds of questions, meticulously noted everything, and recorded hours of video. "Mr. Thompson, I would like to invite you both to present this technique at an International Therapy Dog Conference that will take place in Chicago in June," Dr. Harrison said before leaving. The idea of traveling to Chicago with Rex initially terrified me. I had barely left Montana in recent years, but Dr. Martinez, who had become a close friend, offered to accompany us. "Bob, you don't realize the importance of what you achieved with Rex. This technique can revolutionize the care of elderly people and those with multiple medical conditions worldwide," she insisted. After much thought, I accepted the challenge. In June 2025, Rex and I boarded our first commercial flight. The conference in Chicago was surreal. More than 1,000 veterinarians, researchers, and dog trainers from around the world attended our presentation. Rex, always cooperative, demonstrated his abilities on stage as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The most exciting part was seeing the genuine interest of the specialists. Many approached after the presentation, wanting to know specific training details, others offering partnerships to develop similar programs in their countries. Share this story if it's touching your heart. A Japanese veterinarian, Dr. Tanaka, told me that Japan has a very large elderly population living alone, and that Rex's technique could help thousands of people. A German researcher explained that in Germany, there are government programs for elderly assistance that could incorporate dogs trained like Rex. "Your Rex isn't just an exceptional dog," Dr. Harrison said during the conference closing dinner. "He's the prototype of a new category of medical assistance dogs." Back in Montana, our life had changed completely. The Health Guardian Dogs program had already graduated 4 more classes, totaling 50 dogs spread across Montana, Idaho, and North Dakota, each one caring for an elderly person, each one saving lives. Rex, now almost 4 years old, had become a small canine celebrity. But for me, he remained my companion, my caretaker, my best friend. One afternoon, sitting on the porch watching the neighborhood activity as we had done 3 years ago, I reflected on our journey. "Did you know you were going to change so many things, Rex?" I asked, petting his graying head. He was aging too. He looked at me with those deep brown eyes, the same ones that conquered me on the first day, and rested his head on my leg. It was his way of saying that for him, nothing had changed. We were still just an elderly man and his dog, taking care of each other. But I knew we were much more than that. We were proof that love, patience, and dedication can create miracles. We were hope for thousands of people who, like me, needed a 4-legged guardian angel. December 2025 arrived with the first heavy snowfall of winter in Whitefish, and I was turning 75 years old. 3.5 years had passed since Rex came into my life, and our story had taken on proportions I never could have imagined. That birthday morning, I woke up with Rex gently nudging me. It was 6:15 a.m., 15 minutes after my usual time to take the first medication of the day. Even after all this time, he continued to be my most reliable personal pharmacist. "Good morning, buddy," I murmured, getting up slowly. "Thanks for reminding me." Rex accompanied me to the kitchen, where I took my morning medications. Now there were 15 different ones, as Dr. Henderson had added another one to strengthen my bones. As always, Rex watched attentively, making sure I had taken everything correctly. The phone rang while I was making coffee. It was Jake, now a 19-year-old young man studying veterinary medicine at Montana State University. "Happy birthday, Mr. Thompson. I wanted to thank you again. Thanks to you and Rex, I discovered my calling. I want to specialize in therapy dogs," Jake said excitedly. Jake had become a volunteer assistant in the Health Guardian Dogs program, helping train new animals. Seeing that boy, who 3 years earlier had been chasing Rex down the street, now dedicated to helping other dogs save lives, moved me deeply. If this journey is touching you, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. At 10 o'clock, we received a special visit. Dr. Martinez arrived accompanied by a team from the university, bringing a surprise that left me speechless. A commemorative plaque for Rex, recognizing him as pioneer of pharmacological medical assistance dogs in America.
"Bob, Rex deserves this official recognition. What you two started has already benefited more than 200 American families and inspired programs in 12 different countries," Dr. Martinez explained, mounting the plaque on the living room wall.
Rex, always modest, just wagged his tail and went back to lying beside me. For him, awards and recognition meant nothing. His greatest reward had always been simply taking care of me. In the afternoon, we had another surprise. Carlos arrived with Luna and Mr. Roberts, the first graduate of our program. Luna, now 3 years old, had become as efficient as Rex in caring for her owner. "Mr. Thompson, Luna saved my life 7 times this year," Mr. Roberts said emotionally. "Last week, she detected a diabetes crisis before I felt anything. She brought my insulin and even barked to call the neighbor." Seeing Luna demonstrate the abilities that Rex had pioneered filled me with pride. Our small experiment had multiplied into hundreds of stories of hope, but the day's surprise was yet to come. Around 5 in the afternoon, a van stopped in front of my house. From it emerged people I hadn't seen in months. Families from all over America who had been benefited by the Guardian Dogs program. Mrs. Helen, that lady from Phoenix who had called me after the first news story, was there with her German shepherd, Thor. "Mr. Thompson, Thor gave me 2 more years of independent living. I'm no longer afraid to live alone," she said with tears in her eyes. There was also Mr. Jose's family from Denver with their female Bella, Mrs. Carmen from Seattle with the Labrador Duke, young Michael from Atlanta who had lost a leg in a motorcycle accident and now counted on the assistance of German shepherd Jade. All these people had traveled to Whitefish just to thank us. It was as if our small house had become the center of a large family spread across America. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that transform lives. During the impromptu dinner in the backyard, each person told their story. They were accounts of lives saved, independence recovered, loneliness transformed into companionship. Each dog had learned to care specifically for their owner's needs, all using the principles that Rex had taught me first. Rex wasn't just my first student, I reflected, looking at all those dogs working harmoniously with their owners. He was my teacher. He taught me that love and dedication can create impossible miracles. When everyone had left and the house returned to silence, I sat on the porch with Rex beside me. The sky was starry, cloudless, and the night breeze carried the scent of pine trees from the nearby mountains that Linda had always loved. "You know what impresses me most about this whole story, Rex?" I asked, petting his graying head. He was aging too. "It's that it all started with 2 lonely beings who found each other by chance one afternoon." Rex looked at me with that wise expression I knew so well. His brown eyes, now a bit cloudier due to age, still shone with the same intelligence and love as the first day. "When you came here, I was just existing. You taught me to live again, I continued, and somehow our story grew and multiplied, touching hundreds of other lives. At that moment, I felt a familiar twinge in my chest. Without me saying anything, Rex got up, went to get my heart medication and returned, placing the bottle delicately in my hand. "Thank you, buddy," I whispered, taking the medicine. "Even after all these years, you keep taking care of me like the first day." We stayed there in silence for a while, watching the stars. I thought about Linda, who would certainly be proud to see how our life had transformed. I thought about all the people who now lived with more security and dignity, thanks to the dogs Rex had inspired. But mainly, I thought about the most important lesson Rex had taught me, that true love has no limits. It can transcend species, overcome difficulties, multiply infinitely, and create legacies that endure far beyond our own lives. Share this story to inspire other people. "Rex," I whispered, as he rested his head on my leg, "thank you for showing me it's never too late to start over. Thank you for transforming our loneliness into purpose, our need into mission, our personal story into universal hope." He sighed contentedly, as he always did when I talked to him. For Rex, those words were just another conversation between two old friends who had learned to care for each other. But for me, they represented the recognition that some encounters are so special they change not only our own lives, but the world around us. Rex had arrived in my life as a lost dog. He became my savior, my companion, my teacher, and finally, my greatest achievement. Our story had become a perfect circle. It began with two beings in need of love and care, developed into an extraordinary partnership, multiplied into hundreds of other similar stories, and returned to the point of origin, an elderly man and his dog, simply caring for each other under the starry Montana sky. That's how it should be. That's how it would always be, as long as there was love between us.